I now must have a conversation with Minnesota Vikings fans. Vikings fans, it's pretty clear that the Kirk Cousins experiment has failed in Minnesota. Minnesota this year is 6-7 on the season, heading into week 15 of the 2020 season. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. It's possible because right now they're the 8th seed. They're one game behind the Arizona Cardinals. They very well could make the playoffs, but for what it's worth, if Minnesota does make the playoffs, they're not close to New Orleans. They're not close to Green Bay. They're not close to the Rams. They're not close to Seattle. They're not a playoff threat. They don't have the horses to win the Super Bowl this year. And Kirk Cousins has been in Minnesota for 3 seasons so far. And in those 3 years, he's got 1 playoff victory to show for it. 1 playoff win in 3 years. This year, you might not even make the playoffs. And in his first year, he didn't make the playoffs as well. Last year, he made the playoffs, had a great playoff win versus New Orleans. But you brought in Kirk Cousins to win more than 1 playoff game. And keep in mind, Kirk Cousins, he was brought in to get Minnesota over the hump. The Minnesota Vikings in 2017 made the NFC Championship game. They went 13-3. They had a great roster. Case Keenum was playing some of the best football of his career. And they got smoked by the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC title game. And Minnesota, they said, okay, we've got a great team. We've got a great roster. However, we believe an upgraded quarterback will get us over the top and potentially win us a Super Bowl. And they identified Kirk Cousins as that guy. They paid Kirk Cousins $84 million over a 3-year period. That at the time made him the highest paid player in NFL history. And so far, Kirk Cousins has not lived up to the contract. He just hasn't. Minnesota has not gotten over the hump. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. And you need a lot around Kirk Cousins for him to win games. And even if you have a great roster, it's not guaranteed that Kirk Cousins will win you big games and that he will take you to the promised land. Minnesota has done a great job of putting talent around Kirk Cousins during this 3-year period in which he's been here in Minnesota. Adam Thielen, a really good wide receiver. Stephon Diggs, really good. Justin Jefferson, really good. At tight end, Kyle Rudolph, Irv Smith, they're pretty good. Dalvin Cook, if you heard of him, might be the best running back in all of football. The defense has been great. It's been excellent. Mike Zimmer's a really good head coach. Sure, the offensive line at times has been hit and miss, but the offensive line is pretty good this year, and you're never going to be a perfect football team. Every single football team in the NFL right now has some type of weakness, okay? This Minnesota Vikings roster has been good enough to go out there and compete for Super Bowl titles. And Kirk Cousins, he just hasn't wound up big games. In his 3 years in Minnesota so far, he's got a 6-16 record. 6 wins and 16 losses versus teams above 500. Winning teams above 500. He's 6-16. For that production, you might as well have kept Case Keenum. Case Keenum was a cheaper option. You could have put a lot more around Case Keenum. The thing about Kirk Cousins is he was brought in to be the missing piece and to get Minnesota over the hump, and he just has not done that, okay? He has not. The Kirk Cousins experiment has failed in Minnesota. You know, Kirk Cousins is to blame, in my opinion. Not entirely, because at times the roster has not played up to par in some of these big games. I think Mike Zimmer is kind of a throwback head coach. He's not as hip or as new or as creative as a Kyle Shanahan or a Sean McVay or a Matt LaFleur. And it's always tough playing against Aaron Rodgers twice a year in your division. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, they won 13 games last year. They very well could win 13 games this year. They very well could win the Super Bowl this year, might I add, okay? So it's a tough division, you know, but listen, Minnesota has had talent, and for what they brought Kirk Cousins in to do, he's not accomplished what they thought he could have done. So in reality, the Kirk Cousins experiment in Minnesota has failed up to this point. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.